Hello, welcome to News 24. My name is Tidi Madia. This is part of our election coverage. So I'm sitting in, I want to try and describe him to you first before I actually tell you who I'm sitting with. But I'm sitting in his office. Some call him a necessary nuisance. Others say he's unnecessary, disruptive. Others call him a president, an incoming president, or just president. But for the most part, you know him as CIC, Commander-in-Chief of the EFF. And maybe at the end of this interview, I'll tell you what I personally call him. I'm sitting with Julius Malema in his office. Good afternoon, Julius. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
I want to touch a little bit on coalitions because I think I ask you about coalitions every time I see you. Again, I know that there's a list of demands that EFF will have when people meet at the table, parties meet at the table and negotiate what's the way forward. In your head, what is the ideal kind of coalition?
We need a corrupt-free coalition, a coalition that will punish corruption. Because the biggest problem is corruption that eats the money that must go into service delivery. If we can be able to deliver to our people, half of our problems are done. The ANC doesn't come up with that type of an attitude of trying to resolve issues of corruption. Look at Busasa, look at VBS. They pretended to be punishing VBS people. The VBS people came back to their positions in Limpopo and said, why are you not dealing with Busasa the same way you have dealt with us? Do you know that the ANC can't deal with Busasa because Busasa is an ANC company? It's not an independent company, yeah. Yes. So the Busasa was paying for T-shirts, stage, sounds, buses of the ANC. That's why the ANC can't treat the Busasa beneficiaries the same way they treated VBS, because it is their company. So they are not prepared to move on corruption. Their Secretary General read a list of all those who are accused of corruption and said the ANC must defend these people. Now you've got a DA, which is the most racist organization, which never appreciate support of black people. They take it for granted. They take it. It is. Come again?
One you have a working relationship with, the DA.
The one we have a working relationship with. It can just wake up in the morning and insult us. It can produce a poster that says stop the EFF, and then when they finish that, they say come here, come vote for us here, after insulting you. That's how wide display their arrogance. So we are caught between a hard place and a rock as the EFF. And I said to the leadership of the EFF, one of the options we have is to just fold our arms. If the Gauteng people give the ANC 40%, let the ANC govern with that 40% without being assisted by the EFF or without assisting the DA. They can't blame it on us. They want to blame it on us when the voters were so undecisive. The voters ought to be decisive and decide what they want. They shouldn't say, no, the parties must go and be part of this mess.
Shame, South Africans, not Emma, but South Africans kind of feel like that's when they get the best. I'm not sure if Tshwane and the city of Johannesburg have shown that.
Johannesburg has given you the best. You can't say that. You can't. Yeah, Tshwane, it's useless. That's why we're taking it in June. We feel very strong that we need to take Tshwane. But Johannesburg, anyone who says Johannesburg has not given you the best is partisan and he's got problems with Mashaba. The guy is hard at work. And the good thing about Mashaba is that he wants to work with everyone. The ANC is refusing to come to the party for the sake of the people of Johannesburg. Okay. We have not seen that in Tshwane. We have not seen that in Nelson Mandela. I said to everyone, I'm prepared to even make Mashaba a mayor of Joburg with the ANC coalition. If the DA says to the EFF, you can go to hell, we don't want to work with you. We are prepared to go back Mashaba to stay on and continue to serve the people of Johannesburg. We have never had a mayor like Mashaba who, one, listens, two, never claims his victories. You know, Musi Maimane doesn't govern any metro, that's not a mayor of anything, but every time he speaks, he says, the DA government in Tshwane, the DA government in Johannesburg. But Mashaba is not the type. He says, working together with these people, this is what we are able to do to deliver to our people. That's what a coalition is. And Mashaba understands it, and he appreciates that. So if we can have that type in the province of Gauteng,
sure.
where we put aside our policy ideological differences and say what is good for our people, then we'll have a proper coalition. But if we are going to be hardened at our ideological positions, then we must know that the EFF will not, participate in those type of things.
Okay, you brought up two issues I'd like to unpack slightly. The first thing you mentioned is when you speak about the coalitions was about Tshwane and corruption. No, sorry, it was actually about corruption. Yeah, sure. And then you mentioned VBS. Yeah. And we can't move on without actually talking about those two things. The first bit is about corruption, where the ANC and Tshwane kind of alludes all the time that the relationship that the DA and EFF have is of a corrupt nature in itself in Tshwane. That's the first one. Secondly, this VBS cloud, I know where the EFF sits because we all were here when you had that big media briefing about VBS. So you looked into accounts, you searched, and you're still refuting claims that there's a link beyond Brian Shivambu and the collapse of VBS. But it's a cloud though, Julius. And Musi Maimane, for instance, was saying to me, you must be investigated for VBS. Where there are these massive allegations, it actually must be tested more thoroughly.
We really don't have a problem with any investigation. We have never said we must never be investigated. If an investigation comes, we welcome it because we remain clean as the EFF as it relates to VBS. There is a scandal in Tshwane of Glad Africa, yes, which they say is EFF. Do you know I don't know who owns Glad Africa? I've never, sure. I'm telling you, you can go and ask them. I've never met them. Why would I lie?
African, they say they've worked with all political parties.
Yeah, not EFF. I work with us where?
I'll go back and find out where.
Because ask them, if they work with us, we'll have to work in a particular government. We're not in government anyway.
No, you're not.
So where would we have worked with Let Africa? Maybe they've worked with the DA, they've worked with the ANC. They're a private company. They continue to provide services to different departments and government. I will never lie about not knowing a person. I don't know them. I will say I know them. I grew up with them. They're South Africans. They've got a right to do business. I know a lot of business people. I'm not the type to deny people. So they tried to put the EFF into that scandal. They've never brought anything. They always say the relationship of DA and the EFF in Tshwane is of corrupt nature, but they don't give you anything. They don't say to you, here, that's where corruption is. Let me tell you, Tsidi, VBS was meant to collapse and finish the EFF. That's what it was about. So it's a created artificial cloud. It's not a cloud. It's not a real cloud. It's an artificial cloud, and it is not sustainable because Brian Shivambu is not the leader of the EFF. The leadership of the ANC, which is directly implicated, like Denim Caesar, like Florence Razulani from Limpopo, they were in it directly, and they hold offices. Brian doesn't hold office. Brian, we started with him here as a person who sells merchandise. He continues to sell EFF merchandise even after he left the EFF. So we really can't say we don't know him. But what he does with his own business is none of our business. I've got all my cousins, literally all of them. One of them is Tsepo. Tsepo used to be a strong communist in the Young Communist League, grounded in classics. Today he doesn't want to even hear about a political position. He's deep into business. I always say to him, hey, Chief, come back. But every time there is an election, I tell him, no, now you can't tell me business. Go back to the branch and help the branch there to do the right thing. All of them, literally, all of them are in business. I don't know who they are talking to. I don't know what types of deals they get involved in. And fortunately, me and them do not exchange money. Because I always say to them, we know where we meet our grandmother. If you want to make any contribution, go and help her. That's what we need to do. But tomorrow they are going to be involved in this or that scandal, and then they will be, hey, Julius, I can't be. If I say to them, don't go into business, I must feed their children. One of them, who I was told is implicated in a relationship with Brian, has got twins. What am I going to do with those
You
twins?
take on the
If
black tax
if
of
if I
being
say to him,
twins.
don't get involved in business, I must then take care of his family,
Yeah.
starting with the wife and the twins and his parents. I can't do it. It's unsustainable. But look, where corruption directly implicates the EFF, let it be pointed out with proper evidence. We'll act on it. There hasn't been anything. Tsidi, you can go to VBS, you can go to Busasa, you can go to Gupta's. Musi must not tell us about EFF being investigated on VBS when his predecessor has eaten the curry. She went to eat the curry there. She took the money of the curry at Gupta's. Now he's got some chicken audacity to go and install a statue of the Guptas at the church that founded the ANC, forgetting that he must, before he puts the statue of the Guptas, vomit the curry that they ate at the Gupta's house. They went to eat the curry. You will never, sitting here, find the EFF's name in that state capture inquiry. But the DA's name will come. In Busasa, their dealings in Western Cape, in Gupta's, they've accepted taking money of the Guptas.
I want to start with your campaign. It almost blows my mind. You are doing back-to-back-to-back rallies all the time. I want to understand the reasoning. Is it because you're running out of time, or is it just easier for you to hit province after province back-to-back?
Well, it's a last push. Election by its own nature, it's like that. You reach a point where you have to go back to back. When you start building it up, when you are busy with the structures, it's nice, you are cruising, but you reach a point where you don't have time like now, where you have to try and be a Holy Spirit and be everywhere at the same time. And it's difficult, but we're trying our level best. The leadership of the EFF is everywhere. It's trying its level best to make sure that we reach as many voters as possible.
Obviously, you draw media attention. We go after wherever you are. But as a leader of the organization, when you look at how you've reached out to particular areas, I think you do have a footprint now across the country. What is your takeaway from the EFF's campaign in your own, as a leader of the party, in your own words?
Well, my takeaway is the fact that our people are still in a dire need of basic services. There's high unemployment on the ground, and many young people are not working. And the older people do not have proper houses. Even those who received houses from the ANC, the houses are collapsing, the houses are not in good condition, and the state of health has collapsed. There is no health facilities, particularly in the black townships. But the filthiness that characterize black settlement, the rubbish around, the rubble which is not collected, and the councillors of the ANC not caring that much. I mean, I did a door-to-door in one of the areas in the Northern Cape. I found a disabled woman in a shack. She doesn't have both legs, and she stays with an old man, no toilet. Even if you buy her a wheelchair, there are no proper roads. When it is raining, it's very difficult. And I asked the old man, how would you help her? He says, if she wants to go to the toilet, I have to carry her into the bush. And the first question I asked, is there a counsellor here? Because that counsellor should surely know that condition, but they care less.
This is something that you spoke at length about, the conditions that people are living in when you're in Alex on May Day. What are the other issues? I want to get into other issues. Obviously, we know the slogan, our jobs, our land. Now we get that. But what are the other things where, and it's in part about the vision of the EFF, should South Africans put their faith in your party? What are the other key things? If we're to go through to 3-4 issues, besides the land question, besides the issue of creating jobs, what are the other big things that you think could be definite wins?
It's education. Our people need education because they were promised no-fee schools in the townships, but they are asked all types of contributions to make. By the time the year complete, the amount is equal to a school fees or even more than what they were paying when they were paying school fees. There are no early childhood development facilities. Our children are not, taught by well-qualified teachers at early childhood development. At tertiary level, NSFAS is not paying. The money gets approved, people who do not have inside residences, they go rent outside, and then they are subjected to bully, landlords who are demanding their money and NSFAS is not paying. The second one is the health facilities. There are no health facilities in the black communities. Those that are there close at 4 o'clock. And there is a dire need. That's why even curable diseases end up killing our people because there are no facilities in our townships. And I spoke about the environment. What characterizes a black community is dumping areas, an environment where no one cares. But when you go into the white suburb, it's a completely different environment. So those are the things that when we get in, apart from the land and jobs, we'll immediately want to fix. We want the clean black townships because an environment dictates or has got an impact and contribution on how people conduct themselves. And in a dirty environment, you get all types of bad behavior amongst our people.
Part of the complex relationships in our townships is between South Africans and their African counterparts. The EFF has come out very strongly. It's an Africanist position, I get it, that actually South Africa's borders must be open. There must be free movement of people. What is your vision around that, particularly because even people who support the EFF, when they hear that notion of open borders, they retract. They feel uncomfortable with the idea. They worry about scarce resources, which is what South Africa has as we speak.
Well, it's a colonialist mentality which our people still have, that there are scarce resources, and they are told actually by their masters that the reason why you are unemployed is because the foreigners have taken your jobs. We have a very clear proposal in the EFF that if we were to service someone in a South African hospital, we must be able to bill their country. It doesn't matter where they come from. As long as they're in South Africa and they get the health intervention or assistance, that country must take a responsibility. It can only take responsibility if we strengthen AU and we strengthen African Parliament, where people will be made to comply with these types of interventions by other countries. In that way, we will not be scared of each other because of scarce resources. We know that even if you are in Congo, South Africa is still responsible for you. We need free movements of goods. We need free movements of persons as well, because effectively we were one thing until these borders were imposed on us. And anyone who says some EFF, I don't support colonialism, I don't support imperialism, but at the same time I support the borders, you are unwittingly supporting colonialism because it thrives through divisions of the African continent.
But people don't seem to be hearing that. The one thing I feel and I've observed is, regardless of that message, because you're not the first one to say anything along those lines, I will have to revert to the ANC, which has been helped by African counterparts. They for years spread the message that these are our brothers and sisters, they've helped us out, yet we're still stuck around the issue of borders.
Well, it is a matter of political education. We need to conscientize society. And the process of conscientizing society is not a quick process. It has to be in our education.
So
we need a decolonized education. That's why the kids were marching and said we need a decolonized education, which will make us to appreciate who we are, because we reject our African brothers because we are made in the image of our colonizers and we've forgotten our roots, we've forgotten who we are. Once we appreciate who we are, we'll never have a problem with our fellow African brothers and sisters.
Okay, I want to move on to the main issues, or what you're selling at least, the issue of jobs and land. So I've listened to a lot of pundits, I've read a lot of opinionistas who believe you're selling pie in the sky, who say you cannot actually resolve the jobs issue as quickly as what the EFF is saying in its manifesto, saying it's hard to turn around South Africa's economy. It's unrealistic to look at it from the perspective that the EFF is proposing. I'm looking for your reaction to those kind of comments. And then on the land question, whilst the EFF and the ANC in Parliament and some of the black parties have gotten together in Parliament over the land issue, it still hangs in the air. With a lot of people saying that, but they use that, they dangled it as a carrot, really, to South Africans, to black South Africans, who are seeking to have this question resolved at last, and saying that we're not moving, we're not actually still going to move in the right direction. In fact, there'll be an impasse between ANC and EFF, for they have different methods towards resolving the land question as well.
Well, the land question is not complicated. We never used it to campaign. We said it in 2013. It's a non-negotiable cardinal pillar, number one of the EFF. And that's why South Africans should elect us, give us a decisive mandate so that we do not rely on any other party. But if we're to rely on a coalition, that will be one of the things we'll put on the table immediately after the elections, that we can only work together if you are going to expropriate land without compensation. The reality is that there is no difference between ANC and the EFF position. The ANC position from conference is very clear. It is complicated by the capitalist president of the ANC, who wants to appease his masters in Stellenbosch and international. That's where the problem comes from. The issue of the land will help us to reduce the levels of unemployment, because many people are unable to create jobs for themselves, not even to go and get jobs, to create jobs for themselves, because rental is very expensive. You may want to do this or that, but when you think of a starting capital, the first thing you need to do is to pay the deposit of renting a place and pay a monthly rental in advance. Where do you get such money? So you get stuck even at the beginning. So the land question will unlock those opportunities for those who have ideas and who want to see their ideas surviving. We want to industrialize, and in industrializing, we want to open the old factories which have always been there. They are now dysfunctional, and if they are there, they are just serving as storage for ANC tenderpreneurs who are not using them for production. They use them to put their trucks, they use them to put their material, they don't use them to produce, to grow the South African economy. It's not because, it doesn't mean because they were done by Bantustan or apartheid government, therefore they are automatically wrong. They may be, there were ideas of the apartheid regime, they were introduced in the township by the Bantustans, but we think we can capitalize on that and grow the industrialization, particularly in the areas where our people stay. The reason why we are unable to create jobs is because the 10 trillion which you find in assets, the white people are refusing to reinvest it in our economy. They keep the liquid in the banks and not reinvest it in our economy because they are racist. They don't have confidence, they don't have trust in African leadership. And they like, it is easy to take cash and run with it, unlike to take an industry or a factory or a building, because once these people who are unreliable and untrustworthy turn against us whites, how will we run away with these things? That's an attitude problem that we have. They do not trust and have confidence in African leadership.
And that's not something we can fix easily. Is it like political consciousness? Is it a matter of trying to teach them how to do it, or do we just forcefully get them to understand that African leadership can be trusted on that basis?
The African leadership must stop relying on them and go and look for alternative markets. Because the problem is that you can see these people are not willing to invest here, but you keep on begging them, you keep on going to their country and asking them to come and invest here. Firstly, we must have local investors. We must have confidence in local investors, and we must have government that is willing to spend money on good ideas. And then secondly, we must identify alternative markets. We must be able to speak to Russia, we must be able to speak to India, we must be able to speak to China and say to them, here are the opportunities, but if you come, these are the conditions we are putting forward as South Africa, which will benefit not only South Africa, but the African continent.
I want to dip back into the campaign because you've got the Telatupa rally coming up on Sunday. The EFF has consistently, I mean, at least the rallies I've attended, you feel the space, you feel the stadium, you feel the the soccer fields. Do you expect that to translate into actual numbers? The pollsters are saying that you're the only party really that's set for a major increment. What is your expectation? Because in the past, we've seen those filled up, but has never fully translated into big numbers. What are your expectations ahead of the polls?
Well, our filling up have translated into numbers. We brought people to the stadiums. We got the numbers. CD, you must appreciate we're a new party, and we cannot be expected to perform like those who have been there
But you're
for
not so
some
new
time.
anymore. ATM
I'm
can
saying,
make the claim now.
when you make the reference to that history,
Okay.
we're relatively new. We can't make that claim now. That's why this time we're targeting 51% plus. Going forward, we want to take Gauteng, we want to take Limpopo, we want to take Northwest. Limpopo and Northwest, they used to speak arrogantly, unashamedly saying no one will take those provinces from the ANC. Now they are speaking a different language because they can see that it looks like this EFF is going to take over these provinces, and we are going to take over those provinces. On Sunday is the last rally of the EFF, the biggest rally, because on Sunday it's a South African derby. We are in Orlando. We are where we are where our people are, and then the elite has chosen to go to Ellis Park Stadium, away from where people are. We want to say to our people, right where they stay, right in Soweto, we are for you. That's why we want to close this campaign with you, right where you stay.